Estate Investors Association, May general
Fantastic.
meeting.
Yes. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to May general meeting at the Boston REIA, Boston Real Estate Investor Associations. We're welcoming to all of our guests and members. Boston REIA is your pathway to success. Just before we go ahead and start, we're just gonna go over a quick liability disclosure. If you wanna read that, Miss Kelly, that would be lovely.
Yes. All right, everybody knows the drill. We have to do this sort of thing for legal reasons, and you're all used to it, but I have to read it anyway. Our liability disclosure is as follows. Boston REIA assumes no liability or responsibility for the outcome of any real estate transaction, decision, or other action that any Boston REIA member or visitor enter into as the result of attending any meeting, listening to any guest speaker, or talking to any Boston REIA member, guest visitor, or persons. So again, do your due diligence, do your homework. Everything, we're always offering education, but definitely um, do your own research, look into everything before you make any decisions, especially business monetary decisions.
All right, that was excellent. All right. Why Boston REIA? Because we are number one. We are the most active real estate investing community in all New England. We're number one in deal flow. We're number one in networking, number one in education, and number one in investor resource. Boston REIA is the only, so even though I go to a lot of like REIAs and real estate meetups and clubs and all that, we're the only real club that is approved by the National REIA. So that's another reason that actually I think should be in here. Um, so uh, what's excellent about Boston REIA, it's the Duncan and Kelly, they make it a one-stop shop for you, for any investor really. Whether you are a savvy investor, whether you're just starting up, it's a one-stop shop. Like if you're a hold, buy and hold, boom, you have Rent Perfect to screen tenants and to get all the documents organized for you. Equity trust if you're looking to fund a fix and flip deal. Home Depot if you want to work on your project. Office Depot. So even if, literally anything you would think of, you're gonna find it here. Um, and on the capital side, on the business side, we have, I see here like 7 partners. So all of these are hard money lenders. So, and they don't all offer the same thing. So you might like wanna call them depending on every situation. Something that I really, really know, and it's absolutely fantastic, is quickturnmoney.com. They would give you a free proof of fund for up to $500,000, just no questions asked, without any document, without reviewing anything. If you run into a property and it's a good deal and you need to move on it and you don't have the capital, it really quick turn money. They give you the proof of funds. Um, all the rest of the people I personally in the past reached out to a couple of these people working with investors, and they were fantastic. They really make everything seamless. So most investors, especially new ones or even the existing ones, really, they always need money to keep the pipeline going, and deal after deal after deal. Money is always tied up. So here is your solution. We don't offer just one or two options. We have at least 7 options. Now, if you are on the call and you'd like to become a preferred vendor, uh, uh, um, please contact Duncan. We have many advertising opportunities for over 5,000 people. We have a lot of members, a huge database, really. So it will be a great opportunity for you to advertise with us. So make sure to reach out to Duncan and become a preferred member. Also, this is more of like a combined list of the other benefits that are exclusively available for our members. As you can see, it's just like a one-stop shop. Like, if you want to set up, a calling system so you can Reach out to your contacts if you need like a young company to come help, or if you need a CRM, or if you want to, have a one-stop shop like a Home Depot for all of your projects. So there is a lot, all of these providers, they have exclusive deals and dedicated discounts exclusively for our members. So it's literally a no-brainer. And as I said, it's just literally a one-stop shop. If you are serious about investing in real estate, let us help you make money. So I'm very, very involved with the real estate world, investing side of it, as well as eventually being a real estate agent. And I get to speak with a lot of investors. And the only common thing between all of them is I wish I started earlier. They happy where they are. They wish, they have fantastic plans, but they all have one thing in common. Despite of all of their differences, they would have one thing in common, which is I wish I knew this earlier, or I started earlier, 5 years or 10 years ago, or I've been doing this wrong. Don't be that investor. You have the chance and the opportunity to make it right. So definitely join the Boston REIA tonight and start on the right foot, because um, all the investors that didn't start right, it really, really like left a very bad taste in their mouths, and eventually they dropped out of the business a lot sooner as well. Our yearly membership is really, really affordable, makes it absolutely no-brainer. So if you are a single member, it's only $320 per whole year. So you get unlimited access to all of our meetings. There is so many times where we'd have our speakers hold a seminar or a webinar only for our members. You get to attend that for free as well, on top of all of the other benefits that I had them like combined in one slide. And if you have a business partner, or if you have a spouse or something, a couple, for two people it's 450 again for the whole year. Both people get the same exact benefits. So it's a no-brainer. Like inflation caught up to everything, but not here, which is very surprising. It really makes it like the time is now. If you're really, really very serious about your real estate investing career, I would just jump on this. You'll learn a lot, you'll benefit a lot, and ultimately you'll be starting at the right foot. I, yes, would encourage you to take a picture of the slide so you will not lose Kelly's number, but even better, try to text her now and say, this is so and so. I would love to get started. And she's very simple process. She's fantastic. It doesn't take any time. She really does all the work for you. You just answer a couple questions and that's it.
And now let
And
me introduce our wonderful Sarah Ibrahim. So Sarah has been with us for pretty much a decade. I'm just rounding it to 10 years. Um, she knows what she's talking about, people. Sarah is, and she's our investor-friendly realtor, and she's licensed in both Massachusetts, of course, and New Hampshire. And she knows what to do. She can guide you. She can help you with leads, and you can share leads together, everything. She can assist. So please take a picture of Sarah's picture with her number and text her and let her know about your inventory or deals that you know about, and reach out to her. We keep Sarah on for lots of reasons, but mostly because she's exemplary in customer service, top notch. So she will work hard for you, both in real estate and also representing Boston REIA.
and that's also another reason you should really, really, really um, consider joining Boston REIA tonight. Um, I am just one member of Boston REIA, but let me tell you, we have so many members that been with us for even before I had joined Boston REIA. So, and that speaks volume, that speaks for itself. So eventually people stay for as long as they are benefiting and they as long as they're getting the education they need. They have like that one-stop shop with all the benefits that are exclusively available. They offer deep, deep discounts for our members. So it makes it no-brainer. And at that price, like what is that? Like what is that? That's under $1 a day,
Yeah,
right?
the
If you're a
the
single member.
Home Depot discounts alone, just for paint alone, it pays for itself. I mean, the first time you go shopping at Home Depot, once you become a member,
Right.
you use your discount card and bam, you see your benefits already. It really is. I know we say it all the time, no brainer, but it just makes complete sense because this is where you network and talk with other people who are investing in their businesses. And so they're just like you. And so why start at the bottom when you're already, here? You've
Having all the right tools in one place. I think this is um
part of the
y-
toolbox.
yes. And the hardest part is people not knowing where to start. Like usually when you go to a job, they say, this is when you come in the morning, you do this, you do this, you do this. But when you're on your own, you know, so at least you have your team here that, so you can really, really start on the right foot. So, Boston, there is a lot happening in Boston. So the interest rates continue to go down, which is very lovely to see. So this is a weekly report, just for whoever is new. This is a weekly report. So that average is the 676% is average for the whole week, and it is 0.05% less than from last month. I always like to see what Sam Cotter thoughts and what did he say, what is his comments on these changes happening in the market. And when I go and look at really what's happening in Boston, it's exactly it's exactly a true representation to what's happening in our market. Uh, Sam Cotter was saying this week is mortgage rates again declined this week. In recent weeks, rates for the 30-year fixed mortgage have fallen even lower than the first quarter average of 6.83%. So this is heading in the right direction. Yes, the first quarter of the year we were seeing the 6.83, but now 76. So it is heading in the right direction. On the other hand, um, this is a daily report. I do this report mostly just an hour or so before the meeting, just so I can get the most updated data. And the reason for that is because a lot of Asians, they don't like update their stuff until they finish their appointments and their showings and their walkthroughs and closings and all that. So I try to be as accurate as I possibly can and to get you these data. So the total homes available, I mostly focus on Middlesex, Essex, and Suffolk counties. That's where I mostly work. And I like to see what's happening in the market today versus same day last year. So today we have like 30% more homes available on the market. And we have like 6 day less average days on the market than same exact day last year. So May 1st of last year, we had 3,333 homes, average days on the market, 57 days until basically that house got an offer and got off the market. This is on average. This year, we have we have 30% more homes and we have less average days on the market. So the market is very, very powerful, very strong. I'm currently working with like gazillion buyers right now, and it's very aggressive. Believe it or not, it's very aggressive. Yes, we don't have like 27 and 37 offers like COVID days, but not too long ago, maybe a couple weeks ago, I wanted to submit an offer on a property and they had already gotten like 11 offers. On average, we're seeing, handful, five, six, seven. So So, but this is again, the 51 days is the average days on the market, but we are seeing a lot of movement. For contingent and under agreement, almost 700 properties today got contingent or under agreement. 39 only were having a price change. I always like to grab everyone's attention that price change is could be also going up. So not only a price drop, but also a price exactly change. So this could include pricing going, homes going up in the price. Back on the market is 24. As you can see, it's nothing compared to the homes got under agreement or contingent or even the available properties. Now is it's basically the part is like the mingling part where we, back in the day before COVID days, that's when we socialize together and mingle and haves, wants, and needs. I have a client, you have property, great, what's the deal? And then we try to put stuff together. Now is no different, but it's just electronically. So if you have any haves, wants, or needs, make sure to put it in the chat box. Duncan's rule of participation, in order for you to participate, is your request must be specific and you need to include contact information. And the reason for that is because, people need to know if this is a match or no and be able to contact and reach you. And another important thing is make sure to copy and paste the all the chat before we end the meeting, even though the meeting is being recorded. um, the chat doesn't, like, once Duncan sends us the recording, the chat is not part of it. The recording really record the meeting itself, not the chat. So if you find anyone posting anything important and have wants or needs or anything, please make sure to write it down as well as copy and paste all the chat before uh, Duncan ends the meeting.
And to everybody, feel free to raise your hand if you actually want to. This is your opportunity right now to let us know what you're in the market for, what you have available. This is your networking moment. So if anybody wants to network for a couple of minutes here, just raise your hand and we'll give you the floor. Okay. Yeah, I don't see any hands. So again, everybody remember to put all of your information into the chat box. Let's say you have a deal and
I started.
okay, yeah, there you go.
I put mine.
Sarah put hers in, and that way, this is your way to network. This is part of your benefit of being here with us. So please take advantage of that.
Even if that would be just like, if it's your first time to come here, what your thoughts, what was your expectations, what are you hoping and learning today? It doesn't have to have like, has it's literally just networking.
Maybe you've heard something down the pipeline, some sort of development or just something, some housing available. You've heard something, let us know. Tell us so that we can uh, so that all of us can take advantage of that. Okay.
All right, shall we just move on?
I think we will. Everybody knows now. They can definitely put information in there. And just remember for next time, next meeting, first Thursdays every month, you can if you've working on something and you want to share it with us next month, we'd love to have you tell us about it.
We would always have that part of the meeting of haves, wants, and needs because that always change and
Hmm.
maybe you don't have something this month, but maybe next month.
For
So,
sure.
mhm. All right, and now is the the tonight's fantastic topic and with a fantastic speaker. So let me just unshare my screen. So if it is your first time here in Boston, Mia, or if you don't know who is Scott Ellsworth, um, Scott Ellsworth, he is a certified public accountant who specializes in both the tax and financial side of real estate. He has been a CPA for almost 35 years and a real estate investor himself for more than 35 years. He has done or seen most of it through his clients. He has been where you are. While no journey is the same, he has been able to experience many of the ups and downs of real estate. He loves real estate and believes it is one of the best, if not the best, ways to generate true wealth. And he loves helping others pay less taxes and keep more and build their wealth to achieve their financial goals. So, welcome with me, Scott Ellsworth. Ellsworth. I am having a hard
Yay!
Thank
time
you.
a little bit with the
Thank you.
names,
Glad
but
to be here.
welcome.
So,
Thank you.
it's what's the temperature in Boston? Is it
Today
good weather?
surprisingly, it has been nice. Today was a little bit chilly. Today was a little bit cold. I mean, I had showers in the morning, so I was outdoors, and I felt like, I just need something to keep me warm. But
Gotcha.
uh, but overall, sunny. We started to have a lot of greens, so it's definitely something that we have so long for. So
I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio, and it feels like we're in the Pacific Northwest. We have rain, rain, right? It's just amazing how much rain. We've got a property that we're developing right now, and it just holds water. So the more rain there is, it just constantly holds water. It's crazy.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but I'm gonna share my screen. So we're gonna talk tonight um, about cost segregation. You'll have to excuse me. I have in Cincinnati we have allergies,
Ugh.
and I think that's what is getting me. So occasionally I'll take a drink and I may cough. So if you have those
Uh,
earpieces, maybe don't turn up the volume so loud. Um,
Scott, it's okay. It's pollen season everywhere. We're
all
all
right.
going through it.
Why have we hired somebody and he's from Cleveland and he just has never been used to this allergy stuff and he's been getting killed now. So it's crazy. All right. So can you see the screen? All right. So we're going to talk about cost segregations, a way to accelerate that tax savings, do it now. And that's important, not because you get more deductions, you just get them sooner. And when you get them sooner and you put more money in your pocket today, you can turn around and invest that money. And then it's a compounding effect. If I've got 10,000 more bucks in my pocket, I can lend it out. So all right. So we're going to go so let me give a little background. Sarah gave a nice introduction. So I'm a certified public accountant. I'm also a licensed real estate agent. I don't buy and sell for anybody else. We just did that originally because I'm just an opportunistic person. And we used to build custom homes. We would tear down. This was back in early 2000. We would tear down a house and we would build infill. So everybody's probably seen that in a lot of communities. Well, it was really when it was just starting out. So we were doing that. We were buying a $300,000 house, tearing it down, building $1 million. And I just told my partners, I'm like, we are leaving money on the table, not being an agent. 3% of 300 and 3% of a million. We're just leaving that on the table. So we need to be that. Well, none of my partners want to do it, so I volunteered. So been a real estate agent for quite some time, but again, I only buy my own stuff. Maybe for friends and family, I do a little bit. So I've been in real estate since 1987. So again, over 35 years, and been a CPA since 89. Um, and I'm actively involved in my REIA and other REIAs. I think REIAs are the best place to grow your wealth and to grow all of your knowledge. I would agree, as Sarah had said, I wish I would have done it sooner, and I hadn't. And I'm successful despite myself. So I should have been back then. involved, and I would have gone a lot faster in that, and maybe made not as many mistakes. That's a big thing. So currently, I'm president. I've been the past president of REIA of Greater Cincinnati, and I'm current president of OREIA, which is a umbrella trade association, essentially of about 14 REIAs in the state of Ohio, and we do a lot of legislative advocacy. So, and that's important because what happens where you guys are comes to us. What happens where we are comes to you, because everybody gets some stupid idea, some congressional person gets some idea that the things that are happening in Cincinnati or things that are happening in Boston are good for their state, and they're not. They're horrible. It's a lot of anti investor attitude. But you do have a lot of people who are on our side, and we can fight for it. What I do is mostly buy value, add, and hold. I'm not one that wants to go out and spend. When prices are real high, I don't really want to buy it. I want to find something I can add some value to and hold it. So my investments have included everything from small, large commercial. We have a small commercial I bought. It's a mixed use, actually, just a real small building up in the northwest Ohio, where I went to college. I bought that just out of college. And then the large commercial we're in right now is this building I'm in right now. We bought that during COVID. It was 60% vacant, and so we got a great deal on it. We put a lot of money into it, and it's great. It was 100% full until we're 3 floors, and one tenant had all the 3rd floor, and they moved out. So we're repositioning that. So that's all right. We're still making money, so it's fine. It's just not as much, obviously, with the 1/3 of the rents missing. So again, I've been where a lot of you have been. The ups and downs, right? Real estate's ups and downs. Stock market's ups and downs. Greatest thing about real estate is it's pretty steady, right? The stock market takes really big dips and really highs. And that's why I like real estate so much. I think it's probably the best way to build generational wealth. Single families, we've got a number of those, 2 families, 4 families. Largest residential I have is not big, it's 44 unit, but I bought it 4 years ago. And so almost fully depreciated, by the way. So that brings up some interesting things that I'm going to have to deal with. And I've done tax liens where we have actually bought tax liens in the state over down in Kentucky. That's where we did it. And we got out of it because they lowered the interest rate we were getting. And but it's good. I like it. I've managed over 500 plus rental units. As a real estate agent, I used to run a property management company through my broker. It was my property management company that ran it through the broker. And so again, I've managed a ton of properties, wholesale and flip lots. I love that. I bought a lot, and I could flip it in a couple months, and I made a nice return. This is what I was talking about before, the 600,000 to 1.5 million new homes and infill lots. Now in Boston, that may not be a lot, but this was back in 2002, and it was Cincinnati where that was big. So in Cincinnati, these would be very luxury homes. The one we built for 1.5 million was actually built in a floodplain. Crazy enough, that somebody bought it. It was up on concrete. So I've rehabbed 200 plus apartment units and houses. So probably much more than that, but I just didn't count. I've also been involved in real estate private placement memorandums. So people who do syndications and things like that. I've been involved in those, and it's had a good experience. So and then I do besides being a real estate investor, I own a CPA firm. We specialize in real estate investors, and then I own some other companies, and I'm outsourced CFO and chief operating officer at other organizations, some nonprofits, and some that. So I keep busy, probably too busy, looking to back off a little bit, but I've done most of the stuff you guys have been in your shoes. I mean, I do know, and that's probably been a little bit unique. A lot of CPAs say they know real estate, but they haven't have the practicality of doing what you guys have been doing. So we think it's gone well, and everybody's always been happy. We have gotten out of the tax preparation business. So somebody always say, "Do you do taxes?" I want somebody to. No, we're not. We're getting out of that. It's I don't want to. It's just really grueling. Everything's all due at the same time. Then you do extensions. And 2 years ago, I was actually doing tax returns on Thanksgiving Day because I had clients who should be fired probably, but they just delayed, and IRS cuts off e-filing either the Saturday after Thanksgiving or the Saturday before. This was the Saturday after, so I was doing tax returns on Thanksgiving. Not fun, not what I want to be doing on Thanksgiving. So this presentation is educational only. Every transaction is unique. Your situation is unique. It's not always going to be the right thing for you. I have given ideas to doctors, and it doesn't either suit their lives or it doesn't fit into their other financial goals. So you need to seek the advice one-on-one with a CPA or an attorney. You really need to do that. And so you're not paying me to do that, so you don't come back to me. So, and what I'm going to tell you is accurate, but again, somebody watches this 3 years from now, it could be different. All right, so let's talk cost segregation. So the idea of cost segregation is normally you've got a rental building. It's usually rental property, it's investment property. It doesn't have to be. It could be building that you have your business in. Now, so we have this building, our business is in it, but we also rent it out. So what usually happens with buildings depreciation wise, so let's say you buy a property for $200,000. You need to separate that out by the different types. One is land. The biggest ones that are typically used are land and then the actual building itself. We're going to break that building and that land in all these little pieces to allow you to depreciate that property, those components on a much faster scale. And that gives you tax savings, gives you money in your pocket to then invest and make more money, and on we go. Round and round, it's a great way to do it. So normally, this is how it works. You got that building. So building classification is typically 27 and a half years or 39. 27 and a half a year is residential real estate. 39 years is commercial, and 39 years also includes short-term rentals. Those are considered commercial as short-term rentals, not mid-term, but short-term ones. So sometimes I've looked at tax returns, and on that tax return, it's got the whole amount. They bought it for 200, and it's the whole amount. It's 200. It's on their tax return, and it's all building. Well, that's not correct. At a minimum, you've got to have some land. Even a condominium has a built-in land function. There's 30 condominiums, and they're on a 3-acre parcel. Well, everybody's going to have a sliver of that land in their value. Land is not depreciable. Now, the reality is except when we had the weird 2006 to 8, right, when it got crazy, the property just doesn't depreciate. Even the building, unless you don't take care of it, doesn't depreciate. Land. But the IRS government, I should say, the IRS, understand too, the IRS enforces, they don't really make the rules. Congress creates all the rules. They try to read into them and understand what Congress meant, and they make regulations. And they will collect. That's what they do. They collect. So they're collection agency for the government. They serve a valuable purpose. Everybody hates them. I don't really like them either, especially the fact that a lot of them don't even know what they're doing. So we'll see. I'm not going to get political, whether you like it or not. They reduced the IRS staff, and that is a little better. They weren't going after the smaller guys anyway. They're mainly going after the big ones. So it probably isn't going to have that drastic of an effect. But so at a minimum, we want to reduce it by the land. Now, normally, a lot of times what people will do is they will do one of two things. They'll either look at the county website where that property is and the value, and they will see that they have said the land is worth this and the building is worth this. And that's not what you paid for it. But they'll use that percentage of that land amount. They'll use that land amount as their land amount. A lot of times the land amount is totally wrong. It's either too low or too high. And so you really don't want to use the county's value determining your land. So what happens is a lot of the times, a lot of tax professionals will simply use an 80-20 rule. A lot of counties use an 80-20 rule when they initially establish it. The IRS likes it. It generally is pretty cut and dry. it's somewhat reasonable. We tend to be a little aggressive, right? Because land is not depreciated. So we're going to value land a little bit less. And I always try to if you look at it, I sort of say to somebody, what's the land worth? They said, I have no idea. Well, you can look in your area what that size parcel costs. The other thing you can do is uh, sort of say, what's it going to cost to, once I tear it down, what am I going to be able to sell that parcel for? And that's really what you're talking about is the cost of the land. So again, 80-20 is incorrect. The land is a piece is incorrect. It's not always 20%. I usually say it's 10 to 20. I would argue it's 10 to 20%. Some cases it could be low as 5%. But I would, and it could be higher. If you've got we went to Miami Beach for a real estate event, and we did a harbor tour, and there was a house that Ken Griffey Jr. bought on the water, and he paid like it was an absurd amount. I mean, $10 million or something, and he literally tore the house down, and he built a new house. And I'm thinking, are you nuts? I guess you just have more money you know what to do with. Because I'm thinking, what would have been wrong with that house? You paid whatever. This is crazy. So, so there are some cases where the land is worth more than the house. So that it can be the case. So what we're going to do is we're going to want to do a cost segregation. What a cost segregation basically says is we're going to take the building and the land and we're going to break it down into all smaller components. So again, buildings, the actual building is 27 to 39 years. Okay. That is drywall and studs and the roof structure and even in some of the things like roofs, windows, gutters and siding, water heaters even are 27 and a half years. Doesn't that seem crazy? What water heater is going to last 27 and a half years? I don't know. Now, if you get a water heater that was built 30 years ago, it probably can still work because they make them a lot different back then. Not as efficient, man, but they just ran and it's great stuff. But so building is 27 and a half year. Land, okay, again, what would the lot cost? Not depreciable. Land improvements we'll go through in a minute. 15-year. Anything sort of outside is a 15-year property. And most of the stuff inside we can break out into some are regular 27 and a half year stuff, others equipment and fixtures. There's lots of items, and that'll be 5-year property. What that means is a building that depreciate over 27 and a half years. So if I buy a property for $275,000 after you reduce it for the land, you're going to get $10,000 reduction every year. It'll take 27 and a half years to write it off. And that's a long time. Land improvements, 15 years. Better, it's about half, right? And if you're in commercial, 39 years, and 15 years is even better. But then, and the equipment and fixtures, that's 5-year property. I can write off over 5 years. And if you tie in the cost segregation, so cost segregation got a big boost once when bonus depreciation, which was passed by Congress at the end of 17 for 18, we got 100% bonus depreciation through the year 2022. We'll go into that. But that adds an additional level of speeding up depreciation. So let's talk about 15-year property, land improvements. Okay, that's stuff like landscaping. Think about anything that God didn't put there. Well, I can almost guarantee you the actual tree that's there, it's not the original trees, and somebody put it there. You didn't put it there. So if God didn't put it there, it's a land improvement. Landscaping, fences, sidewalks, driveways, parking areas, even when you have gravel that you add, patios, decks, retaining walls. All this kind of stuff is going to be 15-year property. That's just, it can be a huge. There's rarely a property that does not have land improvements. One time I did a cost segregation for for a lady, and I felt bad because I didn't look at her thing close enough, so I didn't even charge her because I felt so bad. But she had a brownstone, and so there was no, I mean, the sidewalk was a city sidewalk. She had no patio, no fences, nothing. I mean, there's nothing. And so she had no land improvements to even depreciate faster. She'd have inside stuff, but not a lot. All right, 5-year property. What's 5-year property? Those are your appliances, their cabinets and countertops. Although with cabinets and countertops in the kitchen and the rest of the house, there's one district court, tax court, that has said that's a required part of the house and it's part of the structure. Now that's only one district that ruled that way. So we still take them, but that could be an issue. But for the most part, cabinets, countertops, removable flooring, carpeting, LVT, etc., that kind of stuff, LVP, chandeliers, fluorescent fixtures, decorative wall lights, so ceiling fans. Now, what it doesn't include, like, I mean, I don't know that you see this very often, but if you ever see those ceramic fixtures with a light bulb you put in, that wouldn't be an item. That's the building's got to have some light. Most of the things are fixtures that are more than what is needed for basic. Blinds, even blinds, vertical, horizontal, stuff like that. If you've got property that has in the wall HVAC units, those all count. What is not is the bigger items such as the furnace, we talked about the gutters, the siding, the windows, those types of things, water heaters. They just have to do. But there's a lot more, and while cost segregation will pull that information out. All right. So if you do cost segregation, so let's say I'm going to do this cost segregation. I'm going to get these fast depreciable items. What are my typical results of a cost segregation? What am I going to, if I buy a $200,000 house, what am I going to get? I mean, is it going to be worth it, right? Because it's going to cost money to do a cost segregation study. So I need to find out about what it is. So you can pretty much count on 15 to 25%. The one example where they had a brownstone, they not only had no land improvements, but the inside was ceramic tile. It was hardwood. There was nothing except cabinets, countertops, and some appliances. So and think about these. Let me step back to that 5-year property again. Stuff inside. If you can remove it from the property without destroying the thing you're removing or damaging the property, it's probably an item that could be a 5-year item internally because there's a lot of stuff. So you can get 15 to 25%. That one lady in that example, that brownstone, she only had like 6%. So I felt really bad because I should have read her information she gave me before I started it. So anyway, so what's nice is that the bonus depreciation says, hey, anything that is 5-year, 15-year, anything under 20 years, you can write off bonus depreciation in 2022 and earlier. You could write off 100% of the first year. So let's say you bought a property for 240,000, or let's say it's 250,000. And let's say we do the old way just for simplification of 80-20, 20% land. Again, I don't like to go that route, but we're just going to do that for example. So now I've got this $200,000 in depreciable value, right? 250 minus the 50,000. So I have 200. 25%, 20, just call it 20%. 20% of 200 is going to be $40,000 you get to write off just like that. Okay. I mean, you get 20% of that value is all going to be written off. That is awesome. So before they passed the law in 17 for starting in 2018, bonus depreciation was 50%. So it's always been around in some fashion. It started working its way down in 23, 24, 25. The reason they had to reduce it is because Congress plays fiscal games. And so when they passed the tax law in 2017 and that began in 2018, the rule was if you had something that was going to cost the government money, over 10 years, it could not cost the government more than $1 trillion. So to do that, because they just do estimates, like what's it going to cost them to give you 100%, give you 80%, 60%, 40% the first year? They had to ratchet it down. So at the end of 25, if anybody's ever told you, we have a big tax cliff coming. That is not going to be good for really anybody. When they passed the tax law, there were a lot of talking heads that said only the wealthy save. No, it's a bunch of hooey. I had clients, every one of my clients saved money, except for the people that were sort of in retirement on Social Security. They probably paid an extra $400, $500. So it was a good deal. Whatever side of the political spectrum you're on, it was a good deal. It was, and it's a problem if they don't write it off. Give you one example of that sort of side note. A family who made about $250,000, $300,000 back then, you could get $1,000 per child under 17 as a tax credit. Well, the problem is that when you were making 300,000, you didn't get it. So now if I'm making 300,000 with the new law, because now the cutoff's 400,000, well, now I get 2,000 a kid, and I've got 5 kids under 17. That put 10 grand in my pocket that I didn't have otherwise. And so that is a big deal. So now if my kids are still under 17, 5 years later, they're going to basically, or 7 years later, they're going to basically take that 10 grand away from me. And everybody will, even both sides of the spectrum, somehow they use 400,000 as if you make more than 400, you're wealthy. So if you make less than that, they don't want to do that and kill people in taxes. So what happens is after bonus depreciation, the remainder is taken over 5 and 15 years. So in 2022 and earlier, there was no remainder, right? It was just 100%. You could take it. I mean, you could opt out of 5 year or 15. You could, and we did that. We did planning. Like, do we want to take it all now? Do we not want to take it all? Well, you can only elect out of all 5 year, all 15 year. But we did it a lot. We did it with partnerships, and you can play a lot of little games to make sure that your income is right where you want it to be. So in 2025, you would get 40% the first year, and then 5 years of the rest of it. So let's say it was $10,000 5 year property. You got 4,000 this year as a deduction. You get 4,000 this year's deduction. And with 5 year property, it's sort of a bell curve. So you'd get 20% of the remaining 6 this same year. And then the next year, you get 40% of the remaining 6,000, and on until it eventually is fully depreciated. So it's a good deal. Again, 15 years is still pretty long, but 5 years is really good. So what affects the percentage you're going to get? All right. The number of units. Obviously, if I have a 4-family, what do I have? I have 4 sets of cabinets, 4 sets of countertops, 4 sets of appliances, 4 sets of carpet, 4 sets. I mean, it's all 4. I'm a 4 by everything. And if I got a 4-family, I might have a little driveway and a little garages in the back. So I got parking, and I might have fences, all sorts of stuff, land improvements. Do you have removable flooring versus a lot of hardwoods or ceramic? That stuff's hardwood and ceramic is just part of it. You're not taking that up without destroying. The more of the shorter life assets, the better the deal is going to be. That's why this lady did not really get anything on her end with that one I had. And we'll talk about some other reasons you want to do those. All right, so we know what property's good, what property's bad. So like we do cost segs of smaller properties, 6 units or less, $1.2 million in commercial value or less. If there's larger properties or commercial, we partner with an engineering firm to do that. So what I do in my firm is we do sort of niche stuff, cost segregations, IRA valuation discounts, reasonable comp studies, stuff like that, and then working through strategies with clients, because we want to save you money. We don't think you should pay it. I mean, we have to pay some taxes, right? We still have to have military and defense and infrastructure. But government wastes too much money, so I want to give them as low as possible. I want them to have less to play around with. So let's talk about the cost, the things you need to consider. First of all, there's the cost of the study versus the earnings, right? The time value of money. So if the studies, let's say the study costs, and I'll give some examples later. Say the study costs let's say it costs $3,500. Well, did I save $3,500 in taxes the first year? Yes. If I hold the property for 27 and a half years, I'm still going to get the same deduction over the 27 and a half years. All I'm doing with cost segregation is I'm speeding it up so I can get it now and I can get that tax money in my pocket and I can do investments. That's the benefit of doing it. Think about it like this. Let's say that you could save $10,000 in taxes and it cost you $4,000. So you net six, right? Well, I can lend the 6,000 out. If I lend it out at 10%, right? It's not huge, but I'm gonna make $600 a year. I have $600 every year going in my pocket. I can do something with it. I mean, that's what it's all about. That's why it's such a good deal. And if you get larger ones, we'll go over some examples. It's just incredible to what it can be. Your income level, if you're not a real estate professional. So not really for this meeting, but we'll talk a little bit through it. So real estate professional, if you meet that criteria, you can take all the losses, including these big depreciation deductions with this cost seg and bonus depreciation. You can take that off against your W-2 income. Or if you have a short-term rental and you materially participate, you can do it with that too. But real estate professional, the issue is if you make more than 150 grand, between 100 and 150, they start taking it away. But 150, if I'm not a real estate professional, I don't get to take a loss a current year for my rental property losses. And then everybody gets like, oh, well, I want to do real estate. Why? Why wouldn't you want to do real estate? Because you're still going to get the appreciation and you're paying off your mortgage and things like that. The issue is that even that, let's say you did a cost seg and you lost $40,000 on this, but you can't take a loss because you're not a real estate professional this year. You have that loss, that 40K loss carries forward. So the next year you make 10 grand of profit on your property. Are you going to pay any tax on it? No, because you're going to take 10 of that 40. And so the next year you made 10 grand and you're not going to pay a dime in tax. And the next year as you go through and you use up those previous losses. And if the previous losses are sitting out there and you sell it, you can have capital gains and depreciation recapture. We're not going to that today. But when you sell it, any losses that are passive losses that are trapped, they all get released at ordinary income tax rates. And so you get to take that deduction the year you sell it. And you get to take that same deduction, by the way, even if you 1031 the property. So anyway, lots of things you can do. So your income level, though, you need to consider it. And your higher tax rate for recapture on accelerated. So accelerated depreciation, when you use bonus depreciation or all of the 5-year property depreciation is accelerated. So when you go to sell, normal depreciation recapture, we're not going into this today in depth, but normal recapture of 27.5-year property or 15 straight line property, that is going to be at a maximum of 25% rate. So let's say I had my stuff for recapture. I got the deduction, but maybe I got the deduction too when I was in the 22% tax bracket. Now I'm in the 37% bracket, 15% higher. And now I got to recapture it. I got to recapture it 37%, where straight line is maximum recapture of 25%. So it can be a little bit. You got to sort of look at it. But also, I will tell you this. Let's say that you got the deduction today at 35%. And in 5 years you sell it, you got to pay it back at 35%. So that's such a big deal. At least I got to use the money for 5 years. So you really got to decide. Saying it is something you have to determine for you, whether it makes sense. But those are things you need to check into. But a lot of the stuff, if you really dig down deep, it's not necessarily bad. Some are not bad or good, but at least you're getting um, a use of that money for 5 years. So lots
Scott,
of things. Yeah.
excuse me, Scott, I'm just curious. So 25% is the baseline? That's the normal?
Well, that's the maximum depreciation on straight line depreciation. So
Okay.
27 and a half years straight line. So 15 year, you can do accelerated or you can do straight line. That would normally be a straight line. And so what they say, what the rule is that the tax rate on straight line recapture depreciation on a house. So if you did the typical, I buy a house for 200, I say it's worth 40 is 160. So the depreciation I take on that, if it's just 27 and a half year, I'm only going to recapture it, even if I'm in the 37% tax bracket. I'm only going to pay 25% recapture. And if I was
Gotcha.
in 37% tax bracket when I wrote it off at 37%, I only have to recapture at 25. So I got a nice kicker of 12%.
Okay. Okay.
Right. So yeah, so that's just a maximum you have to pay on that. But if I'm in the 22% tax bracket, I'm only going to pay 22%.
Gotcha. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah. All right. So when is it best to do it? Okay, so a long-term hold. If you're going to sell it in 3 years, I don't mean, like I said, you get the use of the money, right? The tax savings for 3 years, you're fine. And again, that's a shorter hold. But a shorter hold, if you're going to 1031, right? I'm going to buy a property today. 3 years from now, I'm going to sell it, buy a bigger property. And 3 years later, I'm going to sell that, buy a bigger property. I'm going to keep moving up. That's the benefit of a 1031 exchange, which we're not going to go into today. So that is where you would definitely use that. Short-term rentals. If you can do a short-term rental and you can materially participate, there's some rules, you can take the loss on a short-term rental, that's every 7 days or less, and you materially participate. You can take those losses against W-2 income. I had a guy who worked at P&G, made $250,000 a year. He did a cost seg, $125,000 on a short-term rental that he owned and he managed. He got to take the 125 against his W-2 income. It was awesome. Actually interesting because I gave him to another CPA firm. He was my client because we've been slowly tapering all that down. And when he came to them, they said, "Oh, you can't do that." I said, he called me and he says, "I can't." I'm like, "Yes, you can. I'll call him." And I knew the guys over there. I said, "Come on, dudes. What is the deal?" And one friend there had been known for 30 years. He goes, "What?" Because he was an IRS agent. He goes, "I would love to get that case." I said, well, Jim, you can go ahead and get the case if you want, but I'm going to win because we meet all the rules. We meet all the rules, and this is not some damn thing where they're allowed to do it. And so, so basically, they looked. I gave them the regs and all that stuff. They looked at, so they finally agreed. The only thing they asked, because the CPA or enrolled agent, they don't want to lose their license over you with some cockamamie idea. So they said, "Well, we want to see his logs that prove he materially participated." And he had them, and I said, "Just give it to him." I never really pushed getting all that to be your auditor, but that's what he did. So you can do that with short term. Even a shorter hold, if there's no 1031, if it's big enough, right? I don't want to do a 3-year hold and save $5,000 in taxes and have paid $2,500 for a cost seg, and then have to repay it in 3 years. It's not going to make any difference. But big enough, it can be. Do you want to choose your tax year when you're in a higher bracket or even have income? Yes, you can. And we'll talk just a little bit about that. So you can sort of choose. It's more expensive to do the cost seg and what you have to do with the IRS, but you can do that. There's a way to do that in some planning. Replacement write-offs. So you remember how we said a roof, right? It's 27 and a half years. A water heater is 27 and a half years. Furnace is 27 and a half years. Windows is 27 and a half years. When you do a cost seg, when I buy the property, if I bought the property and my cost seg said the roof is worth $5,400, right? I get 27 and a half years. Let's just use 27 for these numbers. So at that point, I'm going to deduct $5,400. That's the cost seg said the roof is. So I'm going to spell that out separate. So for 10 years, I write off 1/27th, right? I write off $200 every year for 10 years. I've written off $2,000. Remember, the value was $5,400, right? There's $3,400 more sitting there. And now I've got to put on a new roof. We knew it was only going to last for 10 years. The IRS said you have to depreciate over 27 and a half. So that's great. No problem. Guess what? When I tear the old roof off and throw it away, I've disposed of the rest of that money, that $3,400 in value that was left for tax purposes. I've thrown it away. I get to write that off. The new roof, I've got to write off over 27 and a half years. But the old roof, the rest of it, I can now write off. But if you haven't tracked that and you don't know what it is, you're replacing that roof after 10 years and you're still writing the value of it off over the next 17 years, along with your new roof. Who wants to do that? I want the deduction now. Which also makes another thing. You really need to make sure your depreciation schedules are cleaned up. That's for another section. So, what if you had passed? What if you said, hey, I bought a property 4 years ago? What about can I do that on the past assets? Yes. Now, whether you do this, a lot of it just depends because there is a cost. You would use a cost seg to catch up the depreciation. Okay. Now, if you've only filed 1 year, let's say I bought it last year, filed my return, and this year you find out you attended this thing. You said, gosh, I should have, 24, I should have written it off. I should have done a cost seg. Well, you go ahead and you'll be able to do the cost seg and you can just amend your return. But once you've filed 2 years of returns, they consider that you have established an accounting method. When you do that, the IRS will let you change your accounting method. It's not automatic. I've never had anybody turn down when we did this. You file a 3115. So you go back and you say, hey, we're sorry. We wanted to do a cost seg and appreciate it properly. So we do that. We do the cost seg, and then we fill out this form, and we send that to a department in the IRS. That's all they do is deal with change of accounting methods. So it's not giving you a audit red flag or anything like that. That's what these people do. They know you're allowed to do it, and they handle it fine. They're one of the actual group of IRS people that really know what they're doing. They know what you're allowed. The IRS has tax incentives in it. So, and those people know what those tax incentives are, and they know you're entitled to it. So I'll give you an example of what we did. So there's a guy, he's a client of mine. We've skinny down our client list, but he had I don't know, we had about 8 properties. He had never done a cost seg on. So we took it to the engineers, bigger properties. They said you're going to have between 700 and I think it was about 900, 700 or somewhere up in the 800s of depreciation that is going to be catch up, right? Since they bought it from all those years. So literally, we did it. We did the cost segs. Cost him $32,000 for all the cost segs, and that he did actually 36. But he literally then they did the 3115, and so the year that we did this was I think was in 23. He got to take a one-time deduction of $800,000 on his return, which for him was important because he made 1.3 million. So he was happy to save 37% on that 800 grand. It saved him 320,000 in taxes. Was he happy? He was tickled. He had to write a check to the IRS, but at least it was 320 less than what it would have been. So this can be big. Now he had a lot of property, so I'm not saying that's everybody. But also you're not going to pay 36,000 for a cost seg. You're going to pay for the cost seg and probably about three grand for the form 3115. So, and that's not for the faint of heart. You don't do your own 3115. Even I don't like to mess around with them. The engineers we use that, they do them all the time. They have it somewhat knocked down to a boilerplate for the most part for a lot of documentation, and they do the calculations, and it's well worth the money. So, So the cost ranges. It's going to depend on the professional. Everybody's going to be different. I'll give you some examples. We had two guys that had 9 two-family homes, right? So they bought them for about 1.3 million. There's 9 two-families. Now these, were in Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky, and so you could buy a two-family for 120 grand. So in Boston, maybe that's not the case, but that's the case. So we did those 9 cost segs, cost them 11 grand, but they saved 60 grand in taxes. They were very happy. There was a small 7-unit building we had done. 920K was what they cost. It cost them 3750 for it, and they saved 73,000 bucks in taxes.
Wow.
This can be big. The building we're in, this is our commercial building, this one. So we bought a 27,000 square foot building during COVID. It was 60% vacant. I said that before. We bought it for $1 million, and we've added a lot to it since then. But when we bought it, we said, okay, let's do a cost seg. Cost seg was about $8,500. It was $1 million building, and the tax savings was 80 grand. So I was happy, and I got it to use it. I'm actually not a real estate professional because I do CPA work and stuff like that. I'm not a real estate professional. However, my wife is a real estate professional. And so therefore her status inures to me. I get her status on all the stuff I am, which is nice for a real estate professional. Again, another topic, another time. Typically, like we can do residential, less than 7 units, less than 600K for about 1,500. And if you're less than 7 units and less than 1.2 million, it's 2,100. We license software from the engineers that we partner with. And so they back up all their stuff. They use algorithms. And so we can do it sort of at our desk. You don't have to go out to your property, stuff like that. We can do it pretty cheaply. When you get a higher value, they just charge us more for the license for that one cost seg. So those are the types of things that the costs involved and how much money can be saved. Now, again, all of these examples were with 100% bonus. Likely, bonus depreciation will come back better than it is right now, which is 40% for 25. The reason I say that is we have this tax cliff coming at the end of 25. And as so dysfunctional as our government is, they've got to fix it, because even on the side that wants to make sure that someone who's poor gets a benefit, or somebody that wants us real estate investors, not that we're all rich and wealthy, but they got to fix the problems. I'll give you an example of idiocy that is in Congress. So last year, beginning of 24, they were trying to extend, or it was actually in 23, they tried to extend bonus depreciation for 100%. So the House passed a bill that extended it 100%, extended it. The only caveat, and again, I'm not political, I'm just saying what it is. The liberal side of the House said, hey, we'll agree to that, because they think no liberals have real estate. We'll agree to that, but we want you to give the child tax credit to the poor mom who's single. Because what the problem with the child tax credit is that if you don't, it's not 100% refundable. So you get $2,000 a kid, right? So if you had 5 kids under 17, the couple making 250 grand, 10 grand from the government. They got it from the government. The problem is that the single mom who works 3 jobs makes $45,000, and she doesn't pay any tax. Does she get her 10 grand? She gets part of it. She doesn't get it all. And my thing was, I don't care how conservative you are. I'm like, if you're going to give the 10 grand to the couple making 250, why aren't you going to give it to the mother struggling to make ends meet? That's just stupidity. And so it passed the House. and went to the Senate, and the Senate committee in charge of it, the guy is an absolute moron, Republican. He said, I'm not going to have another uh, 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 entitlement program. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? It's not entitlement. You gave the 10 grand to the guy who made 250 grand. Give it to the poor woman who makes 45 grand. Quit being such an idiot. And he cut off the nose to spite the face. He wouldn't bring it forward. So we didn't get our 100% bonus depreciation. This is how insane Congress is, and how they get so entrenched in what they believe they can't see the other side. It's just awful. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go off on my horrible tangent. And again, I'm not one party that I think they're both horrendous. But anyway, so that's the deal. It's a great thing, and I think it's going to come back. They're going to find some way to carry it forward. So I will go over. We do this type of presentation. We'll usually do it between 15 minutes and an hour. We do this kind of thing twice a month, and I will have something. I talked to Duncan about it, so I'll go over that in a minute. But I want to answer any questions that you have about cost segs.
Okay, well, first of all, that's a new term for me, cost segs. Looks like we do have one question here from Rick. And Rick, by the way, thanks for having your camera on. It helps our speaker so that he doesn't feel like he's just talking to a bunch of boxes, bunch of squares. Okay, Rick, feel free.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. I got a question about we talked about material participation. Can you tell me more about what involves in material participation on a property for your cost segregation?
Sure. So it really doesn't. It affects the cost seg, particularly with short-term rentals if you want to take it off against W-2 income. But material participation, you can meet about 7 ways. I'm not going to go through all of them, but the most common that people try to do, you can materially participate in a property if you have 2 things. You have at least you work 100 hours in the property, okay? And this is the key, you work more than any individual does on the property. So if you have, let's say you had a short-term rental and you worked 120 hours, but you had a lady who cleaned for you 4 hours every week. She works 200 hours, you only work 120, you don't materially participate. Now, what you could do is say, well, you only work 3 months, and then you work 3 months, and so you can play the games and try to get it. You could also find out. I mean, short-term rentals, honestly, they're like a business. You got Airbnb. You're placing the stuff. It's not Airbnb is not passive. I mean, unless you hire somebody. I have a midterm rental. We rent to traveling nurses, but I hire somebody in my local REIA. Her name's Eway, and she does short-term rentals. She charged me 20%, but I get a lot better than the normal rent I would. So that's what you got. That's the material participation would be. That's the most common way to get there. And honestly, you can have it. I mean, you could have a cleaning company that comes out, but there's 3 people every week, right, on the crew. Well, if they work the 4 hours, or let's say they work 3 hours, well, that's only 50 hours per person. You got it, no problem, because your cleaning company's got more, but one individual person doesn't.
So if you have someone managing your property, and you decide to go out there and do some your own stuff, like say you got a property in California, you live in Massachusetts. Is the time traveling to and from that location part of material participation?
Yeah, I would count it. Yes.
So getting on an airplane, getting all, booking and getting over there to that location and then dealing with that's all material participation.
Right.
in that profit.
Also known as a business expense, right?
Right, right. And the thing that you got to be clear about is that the purpose of your trip was to do that. Don't go
Yeah.
out to Disneyland out there and spend one day on your rental and spend a week in Disneyland, and no, your travel out there does not count,
Yeah.
and it's not deductible. So,
Okay.
but yeah, you could.
So pretty much documenting those things. How would you like document that?
You keep a time log. You can look for an app that will let you keep track of time. QuickBooks has it's called QuickBooks Time. That one will work well. We use it for our maintenance guys. I've got an internal property management company. We don't manage for anybody else, but they use that. They use an app to keep track of their time. It's better than paper, right? I don't want to keep it on paper. So just choose an app and just document and document what you're doing. Don't just say I spent 2 hours. What did you do for the 2 hours? So, like if you're doing, let's give an example. Let's say I spend an hour a night reading Bigger Pockets articles. No, that's really not. Now, would I use it if I'm struggling to get to the number? Yeah, but it's not going to be one that's going to be real. You're going to have a fight when you get into an audit. So, I mean, use them. I'm not saying don't put them down. I would rather say I spent 30 hours doing that, but my total hours were 200. So I'm fine. But I have those as sort of bluff or whatever you want to call it. So
Yeah. So I'm trying to make that 100. Because I'm not a real estate person. So pretty much I have Airbnb, and
yes,
pretty much
right. So
you have to have 100.
Airbnb,
I have to have 100 hours of work.
right. You got 100 hours.
Participation in that property. So an example, if I'm here in Boston and I got to go to California, the whole documenting me coming from, getting the airplane, going to and from that place back and forth, and doing some work on that property, how many periods of time I go there. Like, for example, I have a management company that manages the property, but it's an Airbnb, but then I break off time for the property.
Yes.
For myself, for
Well,
to be on that property.
yeah, you can. I will tell you that you're probably going to struggle having more time than any one person if they're a management company. I mean, because you got to track their hours. It's not just tracking your hours. You got to track theirs. So now I got to tell the management company, give me a timesheet every week of how many hours you spend on
That the cleaner pretty much spends on it, because they're not doing it themselves on the property.
Right. Well, it's if you got right, if a group of 3 cleaners, that's fine. But the property management company that you hire may spend 3 hours a week on my property managing it.
Mm-hmm.
And if that person, that management company, and it's that just one person, they're going to have 150 hours right there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just saying is if you don't manage it, I just think you're going to be hard pressed to get. It's not that you can't get 100 hours. You might, but I question whether you'd be able to get it. And I can guarantee you, if you have an audit about that, the IRS will come in and push that issue because you've got a property manager. Now here's a strategy.
Yeah.
What you do is you buy the property in November. You manage it for the 45 days or the 60 days. You put 100 hours in during that period of time, and you're more than anybody else. So you've met mature participation that first year. You do a cost seg that first year. I get my huge write-off. Perfect. I'm excited. Next year, what do? I can't meet mature participation. Things have changed.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to be a mature participating for next year. So I can't deduct future losses. Here's what I will tell you. Unless your Airbnb just, excuse my language, sucks. Unless it sucks, you're going to make a profit. Everybody I know who has Airbnb, short-term rentals, they make more profit. They make a profit. There is no loss. If you have an Airbnb, you just don't have a loss. I mean, if it's making a loss, even a paper loss for the taxes, I would argue it's not a very good Airbnb.
Mm.
Now, I'm not an Airbnb expert, so not trying to pass judgment on your Airbnb. But I'm just saying, so that's a strategy, right? I buy it for that portion of the year. I meet my mature participation. I do my cost seg, I get it all that year, and facts and circumstances change. And I no longer materially participate in it next year. So that's what I would do, Rick. If you have that. Now, if you've already got an Airbnb, then it's not uh, uh, practical because you've already done that. But if you're going to go back and do that cost seg, we'd have to talk through that. But you could definitely there are ways to get it done.
Okay.
I mean, it's
All right.
just like the same thing. We have people who buy a car. I've got for some reason I'm at gals too. They all want this monster truck. I get. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a car guy, but they get this monster truck and they want to write it all off.
Yeah.
But to write it off, you want to write off 100% of it. You need to drive 100% for business. So they buy it December 15th, and they don't drive it anywhere but for business for those 15 days. And as long as they don't go below 50% the next year, they can write it all off this year or most of it because the bonus has changed. But they can write off most of it, and then next year, as long as they don't go below 50%, they don't have to recapture it. But if they did that, then they only drove it 10% for business, then they're screwed. They're picking it all back up in income for next year. So they do the same thing with vehicles. So we can sort of play some strategy games to near the end of the year if you want to do that. And that's what I've had some people do.
Mm.
But I even
Okay.
gave the offer to a doctor who made $800,000 a year. He said, I want to save money. I'm going to get in real estate, save money on my taxes. I go, well, not really, but still a good investment. I said, now I got a strategy for you if you want to do it. And I gave him the short-term rental and he had to manage it for 60 days. And he goes, you want me to manage a short-term rental? I said, I don't want you to do anything. I'm just saying, here's a strategy. And he
Yeah.
goes, no, I'm not doing that. So he's not even for 60 days. It wasn't even worth it. The doctor, he was going to probably save $30,000. He goes, no, I don't want to do that for 60 days because it just doesn't suit his lifestyle. That's the thing. But again, so on your Airbnb, I think you could do it with that, first year, but I think you got to manage it. But after the second year, like I said, you're going to make money. So it's not an issue of being
Mm.
materially participating because you're going to make money. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Great question, Rick. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
I learned
Good.
something there too. And of course, Scott, great answer.
Sometimes we spin off into tangents.
Yeah, it's okay. That's good. So intimate crowd this evening. So not I don't see any more questions. But this
So let me,
is Oh.
yeah. So let me go ahead and talk about the Tax Strategy Network then.
okay.
I told Duncan to do it. So this is an offering that, and Duncan will have this also this QR code and a brochure that you guys can give out, and it helps support the local REIA, your local REIA if you join. So here's what we were having. We were having this issue where somebody'd call me up, they'd call the office, and they'd say, Scott, I just got a 15-minute question, a 5-minute question. Every question is 5 minutes, and none of them are 5 minutes. But they got this quick question they want to answer. And if I'm at a REIA meeting, I'll answer anything for free. Don't corner me for an hour, but I'll answer your questions. I believe no matter what your expertise is, I think that as a member of a REIA group, you need to share with your other members to help them grow and be successful. But it is my business. So calling me during the workday and asking me for free advice, that wasn't really working. Also, I didn't want to bill it. I didn't want to have a 15-minute call and send somebody a bill for 15 minutes. I didn't want to do it. So my assistant and my wife got on me all the time that I just gave away, which I like to do. And honestly, I just love talking about this stuff. And I would do it. So because of that what was going on, I was suggested that I create something similar to this. That's what I came up with this idea, and they thought it'd be a good idea. So the idea with this tax strategy network is that we do expert CPA group coaching and discussion um, with somebody who actually does what you do. That's me. Now, I'm not saying I won't have another guest who does that too. There are other good CPAs. I'm not the only one. And no CPA knows everything. And anytime you ever get a CPA or a tax professional who says they know everything, you need to turn around, walk away, and go, because they don't. You just don't know. Everybody comes up with great ideas. We had a session the other night, and a guy who's very smart. He brought up a tax strategy I had never really thought about. And then I thought about it, and I think I'm going to utilize that tax strategy in our 44 unit building potentially. We do access with 2 times per month with questions in a group setting. So it's the second Monday night, the fourth Monday night, 8 o'clock Eastern to 10 o'clock. Sometimes we'll go shorter. I haven't gone over so far, but and along with that, we do twice per month in that same time period. We do some educational content like the cost segregations or real estate professional or whatever it would be, how to use an HSA, how to strategy to get your medical bill deducted as a self-employed person and do it the right way. So we do that kind of topic. All that stuff's recorded, including all the questions. And if you can't make it that night, you just send your questions in ahead of time and we answer them. So you can go back and look at them the following day. You can look at the recordings. And that it's all recorded. It's great. It's in a group setting. We're not going to answer questions that are, if you say, hey, I want to buy a short-term rental in the Bahamas, and I'm going to own it through a trust in Thailand, and that trust, its actual beneficiary is going to be an LLC in Mexico. That might be a fine strategy, but we are not going to cover that. That's for one-on-one. And this is still education, but it is you. So as long as you're willing to share some stuff in public, it's great. But we have people that will share. Like I've got a couple guys, they literally have a list of questions and I go through them every night. And the benefit is they got an hour of my time and they didn't pay me $300 an hour. They paid you're good to it. It's $59 a month. So we do that. And then there's a personal login to get the past recordings, additional resources that they're added. So we're doing, we've got a whole thing about health plans that we're uploading a sample to the portal so everybody will have access to it. We're going to do longer sessions and we do more in-depth training, but the group members will pay a fraction of the cost, probably in the neighborhood of 30 or 40%. And access more in-depth one-on-one tax planning at a discount. Everybody likes a discount. I don't know what the deal is. Everybody likes a discount. And there is, could at some point say you got to be a member to get the access. But I just love this stuff. So the question is, why would you join that? Well, you might have a question that you just want to get an answer to, right? You might have a deal you're working on buying and need the tax ramifications for both the buyer, you, and the seller, or if you're selling for you. Do you have a property you're considering exiting and you talk through tax impact of various strategies? We have people that come up and on these calls, they'll say, hey, so I've got 2 houses. I want to sell them. I want to buy a 4-family. What do I do? So I walk them through the whole 1031. We spend 10 minutes on theirs. They got 10, we came up with a solution. Now, is it every single little detail? No, but they've got a good idea of what they need. So, maybe you just want to work through the most tax efficient wealth transfer. The question is, how do you transfer stuff to your heirs? I'll give you an example. We have a 44 unit building. My wife hates the 44 unit apartment building. When I bought it, she said, I'll hand the keys back to the bank if you die. Now, she's smart and she's learned. We have a lot of equity in it. She's not going to do that. But when I die, she's going to sell it. So that's in a single member LLC that I own. Because when I die, she can sell it $3 million and pay 0 tax. My only rule, look sad at the funeral. Don't be counting the money at the funeral. Okay, you can't do that. You got to pick a better husband. Husband two's got to be better than me. And don't let Tony the pool boy take all your money that we just that you have. So that's my only rule. But again, that's a tax strategy, because a lot of people are like, no, we're going to be 50-50 owners, because I'm not letting my spouse have 100% ownership, because they're worried about like a divorce, or he's going to be a creep and run off. I guarantee if he's a creep and run off, your attorney is going to take him to the cleaners. So you talk to an attorney about that. It's up to you. But I do it for taxes, because if she dies, I'm going to keep the apartment building. That's what I'm going to do. So that's simple. That's a tax strategy. It's like, how do I set it up? We do a lot with entities, how to do that the best kind of thing. Again, I'm not an attorney, but I know a lot about entities. You may just have an investment or business operation question. It could be something like, hey, I need to track my time. What's a good idea? So we have some different resources that we do. I like information. I like to find solutions and offer those to people. Sometimes too, you hear different or contrary information. I mean, the internet, okay, some of it's good and some of it is just garbage. And you need to and the problem is you can't ask a question. Somebody posts some YouTube thing and it's totally deceiving, because they aren't telling you this other part, or they aren't telling you the bad parts. Because every strategy has a good and a bad part. So pro and a con, almost every strategy. I want you to know that, so that you can make an informed decision. Otherwise, you make a decision and then, I mean, somebody to take depreciation. Remember we talked about this depreciation? Well, depreciation, when you sell it, you have to recapture that depreciation. And so there was a couple that came into my office. They had 3 rental properties that they had established over their lifetime. And when they bought them, I said to them, when they came, I said, where's your depreciation schedules? They go, well, we don't have any. We didn't want to do all that recapture and stuff. Because they listened to some idiot who said, you're just going to have to recapture it. Don't take it. Well, the problem is you have to recapture what was allowed, what you did take, or what was allowable, and you didn't take it. So these poor people for 30 years had not taken their depreciation. And now they've got to pay tax on what they never took. They have to pay tax on 100% of the gain because they didn't take any depreciation. So that's the things where you've got to have somebody you can talk to. And the other thing is somebody who's going to say, I don't know, and I'll find the answer for you. And that's the other thing we'll do. So again, to understand some lingo that you hear, that is a thing too. Like, oh, what's ARV? You'll get the answer. But a lot of those kind of questions. So what we decided was, honestly, I'm telling you the truth. I thought I'll just do this for free. And somebody said, no, they got to have some skin in the game. And I said, well, I'm not going to make it very expensive. And I said, $59. And they go, that's too cheap. I'm like, I'm not in this to make money. I want to do this. And there's a whole tax strategy of where I put this entity too, by the way. I've covered that in one of the sessions. The first month's totally free. You do got to put in your credit card, because you can cancel anytime. I had somebody who because she really wanted to come to the Monday sessions, but something changed in her life. She wanted to cancel, and she had actually been billed that day. I said, that's fine. I'll just refund that next month. We're not like these stupid idiot groups where, oh, sorry, they passed the renewal, So we don't do that. I'm not into this. It's not about the money. So you can cancel anytime. It's very easy to do it, or you can call, or you can email, and we'll cancel it and refund anything we need to refund. So I take the high road. I'm not really that. So, but what do you really get? Because all those are features, right? You've heard about if you're in sales. What you really get is peace of mind, because you have somebody to ask. I mean, essentially, you almost have a CPA on retainer. Not quite, but it's pretty close. Within a 2-week period, you can get in front of CPA and get some questions answered. That is because right now, if you want to get on my calendar for certain times, if you want to get on my calendar, it might be 4 weeks before I can talk to you. So like, join this, only $69. It would have cost you $300 it just makes sense. Answers to your important questions. Those are questions you have are important. And other people are on that call, and you're gonna get questions that you didn't think about asking, because they do. Proper entity structures for you. What's the right entity structure for you? One LLC for every rental property? No, I don't think so. But what are those things? When do I do an S corp? When, that kind of stuff. You get to get those questions answered. When do I want to do a Rob's 401k? Or you just want your investments in business to operate better. So again, I'm Chief Operating Officer and CFO of a number of companies. I don't know everything, but I do know a decent amount, and I also know the things I don't know. So I know enough of it to be dangerous, they say, but I'll also know what we need to do a little more research. What you really get is efficient growth of your wealth. That's the deal, right? Efficient growth of your wealth. If you're wasting all your earnings on taxes, I'm not saying we're not gonna cut you down to zero. A lot of people say I'm a zero taxes. Like, yeah, well, okay, well, we can shoot for that, but let's be realistic. I had one guy in December. I told him, I said, you're going to owe 60 grand next year, tax time. He leaned back and goes, that's okay. I'm 60 grand closer to paying the IRS $1 million. His goal was to pay the IRS $1 million. And he said, because if I paid the IRS $1 million, I made a heck of a lot of money. So he took a little different take. Now, I don't want to pay the IRS $1 million, but if you made enough, so be it. Tax efficient transfer your wealth. Again, I gave you that example of my wife and I. That's a tax efficient transfer of that wealth over to her. And so I think that's important. So Duncan is going to get a brochure that sort of has most of the information on that slide. This is a QR code that it will also be on that, and that is their link, their affiliate agreement. Again, no risk. The first month is free. And I will tell you this, when you sign up, as long as you don't have a break in your subscription, if later we're charging $99, yours never changes. It's $59 forever. That's what it is. And this REIA group, by the way, gets that affiliate for you forever, even if you move to California and join some other REIA. Boston REIA is the people who got you there. So I don't do it because they get a piece of it, but I do think it's important. We wanted to make sure that we're supporting the REIAs. So anyway, so that's it. That's actually my CPA firm there. The Tax Strategy Network is a different URL, but and that's our phone number. That's the office, and my assistant Sharon does a good job, because I don't put my personal email up. Not that I care about that, but I get 300 emails a day, and if I get your email and 2-3 weeks later you're going, did you get my email? And I look and I say, oh yeah, it's right there. But I didn't see it because I had so many emails. I just didn't see it. So we continually try to make adjustments to our processes and things so that we don't miss stuff. So Sharon is great. She tracks all the info box, and once you're a client, there's one called Client Ellsworth CPA, and so it's good. So anyway, that's it. Don't want to take up any more time. I guess I don't know when usually end.
Scott, could you put that QR code back up for everyone?
Yep.
Okay. And is this supposed to have this? Supposed to look like that?
Yep.
Okay.
To do it.
Okay, so everybody, hopefully you got this information.
And we're gonna put it on a brochure for Duncan. He's gonna email it around too.
Oh, good.
I just didn't have, by the time Duncan and I touched base on it, and we just started doing this in January. So once we touch base, then because that's what you'll get when you go to it.
Excellent. And let's see. It looks like Aaron was saying, great information. Thank you. Yes, great information.
You're welcome.
There's a reason why there's a certain faction of people who only do CPA work. I had an old roommate in Boston who she was studying to become a CPA, and she just has a certain mindset for it, and the rest of us are like, we don't get it. So we're very grateful for all of you CPAs who keep us in line and tell us the best tax strategies. So if we've got anybody with another question for Scott before we let him go? Oh, looks like we've got one more from Rick. Rick, I think we still have you unmuted, so go ahead and
I just wanted to say great job. Excellent work.
Oh,
yeah.
you're welcome, Rick. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. This is fun. I just love doing this, and I like it when everybody's too is real interactive, and they there's other people. Sometimes you'll bring up an idea, and no idea is ever stupid. You need to bring them up because I've had
Oh, yeah.
people bring up an idea, and I'm like, well, I hadn't really thought about that. Maybe that's right. Then we go look it up, and maybe it's no good, but maybe it is, and so it's good.
Yeah. My
But
grandpa
thanks for your
always said,
question.
the worst question is that which is not asked. Always ask. And one more time, if we could have you put also your email address back up there, your work
Yeah,
email address.
I will.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so that's the QR code, and there
Yep.
one more time. So hopefully
Yep.
everybody can see that. Please remember to take some pictures if you haven't already, and copy and paste the chat for any of the information that you need, both for contacting me for membership, as well as beautiful Miss Sarah Ibrahim if you need any of her information. Remember to copy and paste that as well. And also consider attending some of these other lessons with Scott. I mean, it's niche, right? But it's all important. It's all part of the real estate biz. And if you've got to cover all your bases, and you could be doing great in real estate world, but if you don't have things straight with your taxes, it, you know, you've got to have it all. You've got to have it all together, and
Taxes, your
yeah,
books, your operations, the whole bit.
everything. So this
Gotta
is